Did you know that this person suffers when thinking about you? This is about to change everything. She can't bear carrying this alone anymore. Every memory of you two hurts her. Every silence weighs like an open wound. This time, she's gathered the courage. She will speak. She will lay it all out even without knowing how you will react. Are you ready to hear what she feels? Are you willing to face what was left behind? You can pretend that none of this affects you, but you know it's not true. This can change everything, or end it once and for all. The choice will be yours. She hesitated so much, fought against her own desire to reach out to you, thinking that silence was the best solution, but it's no longer possible to ignore. This is consuming her from the inside. And even if you haven't noticed, something in you has changed too, hasn't it? That emptiness, that feeling that something was left unfinished, isn't just hers. It's yours too. It's no use lying to yourself. She's determined. She won't flee anymore. Time has passed, but the pain hasn't disappeared. In fact, it has grown, turned into a throbbing wound each time your name is mentioned, each time a place, a smell, or a song reminds her of you. And the worst part? She doesn't know how you will react. She's afraid of losing you for good. But she's also afraid of continuing in this prison of silence. That's why she's going to take the risk. You might even say that you've moved on, that this doesn't mean anything anymore. But deep down you know you are hearing this because you need to hear it. There are things that were left suspended between you two, words that were never said but should have been. How many times have you wondered, what if I had done things differently? What if I had said something? How many times have you tried to erase this from your mind? But the doubt always comes back. Well, now you will have the chance to face it. But before listening to what she has to say, reflect. Are you prepared to revisit everything that has been buried? Because this won't be easy. She won't bring you light words. What is coming may be hard to digest. It might hurt. It might make you question yourself. But it can also free both of you from a burden that has lasted too long. Can you look into her eyes and deal with this truth? Did you know that a simple, "How are you?" could have changed everything? How many times did you feel like sending that message but didn't? How many nights did you stay awake, thinking about what she might be feeling but let it go as if time would solve everything? Now she is bringing to you what time could not heal. Do you think she didn't notice your pride? She did. But more than that, she saw your pain even if you never admitted it. She noticed the weight it put on your shoulders, even when you tried to pretend everything was fine. Maybe you deceived yourself into thinking she didn't know. But she always knew. And yet, it was you who chose silence. It was you who turned your face, as if ignoring it would be enough to erase it. You thought time would do the job you didn't have the courage to do. But guess what? Time did nothing. And now you will have to face it because she won't wait any longer. Did you know this isn't just about her? This is about you too, about what you lost, about what you didn't have the courage to fight for. It's easy to throw the blame to the other side, to say that things just happened, that it was better this way. But you know that's not true. Do you remember her last look? The last thing she said to you before everything collapsed? She still thinks about it, as if it had just happened. For her, the words from that day kept echoing, turning into a barrier she didn't know how to break. But today, she is about to tear down that barrier, even if you're not ready for it. She doesn't want to blame you. It's not about accusing, pointing fingers, or reviving old wounds just for the sake of it. It's about what was left unfinished, about the knots that remain tight in her chest. Because in some way, it still holds her back, and maybe it holds you back too. Do you have the courage to admit that? Do you have the courage to listen to what she feels without turning away once again? She knows you have your side of the story. She knows you also carry scars you've never shown anyone, but she also knows that your silence was a choice, not fate, not other people, but a choice made by both of you. And now, that choice is demanding its price. You can try to protect yourself, you can build an even higher wall, but that won't change the fact that inside you, there are still questions that were never answered. You still wonder, does she think of me? Does she regret it? Maybe the biggest question is, do I still think of her? Do I still care? Do you think you can keep avoiding this forever? Because now the choice to run away is no longer yours. She will bring everything to the surface. She will make you face the truth, whether you are ready or not. And at that moment you will have to decide, will you open that door or close it forever? She is willing to open her heart, even knowing it could end in more pain. She doesn't want to live with regrets, doesn't want to keep asking herself what it would be like if she had tried one more time. But what about you? What do you want? Are you going to have the courage to listen? To look at her and let down your defenses? Because if you choose to listen, you'll have to deal with the consequences. You'll have to face the emotions you've suppressed for so long. You'll have to respond, not just to her, but to yourself. And that might be the hardest part. Don't think this will be easy for her. Every word she says will cost her something. Don't think it's simple for someone to expose all their feelings after so much time. She's taking a risk. But you? Are you willing to take a risk too? Or are you going to watch it all happen as if it has nothing to do with you? She is ready to speak. But now the question is, are you ready to listen? If you're not, be honest with yourself. Be honest with her, because this time there is no room for half words, for silences disguised as indifference. This time, it's all or nothing. You can choose to pretend that this doesn't matter. You can choose to turn your back again and move on as if nothing happened. But don't fool yourself, this will come at a cost, because deep down you know that some stories don't disappear that easily. Some stories remain alive even when you try to bury them. And now you are faced with a choice. What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with yourself? The decision is in your hands, but not for long, because once she speaks, there will be no turning back. And you will have to live with the choice you make, whatever it may be. She doesn't expect you to have all the answers. To be honest, she doesn't even know if you'll want to listen. But there is something she can no longer ignore. The weight of all of this is crushing her. The sleepless nights, the moments when her mind goes back to you two without her having control. Do you have any idea what it's like to carry this alone? She tried to move on, tried to bury the past and pretend everything was fine. But the truth is, it's not. And as much as you thought everything was left in the past, was it really? Because if it was, why are you still here, reading this, feeling that knot growing in your chest? Why can't you just ignore it? You feel it too. She knows that. You might try to hide it, might cover it up with justifications or pride, but deep down you know there's something still connecting you to her. Something you could never explain, but that's there, poking at you, making you remember, even when you don't want to. She doesn't want to blame you, but you need to understand what she's been through, because for her, things didn't end. Time may have passed, but each wound remains open. Each doubt, each word that was never spoken, all of it is still alive inside her, and maybe inside you too. Remember, this is not about reliving the pain. This is about freeing both of you, about opening the doors that remained locked and finally allowing you to see the truth, without filters, without masks. But this will only be possible if you are willing to put pride aside, to lower the defenses you've built around yourself. Can you do that? Can you face the person you were back then and admit that maybe, just maybe, you were wrong too? Because this is not just about her, this is about you both. And how you respond now can change everything, for better or worse. She is scared, you know? Scared of reaching out to you and receiving silence as a response. Scared that you'll look at her as if she were a burden, an inconvenience, someone who stayed in the past and has no place in your present. But despite this fear, she decided to try. Because for her, the pain of rejection is worth more than carrying this emptiness any longer. And you? Are you going to reject this? Are you going to pretend these words mean nothing? Because no matter how much you say things are over, that everything has been overcome, there is something she needs to ask you. Have you really moved on? If you were as indifferent as you say you are, why do you feel this restlessness now? Why do these words seem to hit a place inside you that you tried to hide from yourself? She may not know what you're thinking at this moment, but believe me, she feels it. She feels it because you two still share something that was never completely broken, despite everything that happened. Did you know that she forgave you? That even with all the pain, she found space to set aside the hate? It wasn't easy. Each day was a battle not to sink into resentment, not to get lost in thoughts of what if. And now she doesn't want to carry that anymore. She wants peace. But that peace will only come when she knows she did everything she could, even if it means opening her heart to someone who might no longer be willing to listen. The question she would ask you, if she had the courage, is, did you forgive her too? Or is it that deep down you still hold a grudge? Because she knows she's not perfect. She knows she made mistakes, that she made decisions that hurt you. But you need to understand that she also suffered. That her silence was not disdain but fear. Fear of making things worse, fear of losing the little that was still left between you two. Now she realized that silence is a prison, and she doesn't want to live imprisoned anymore. But to free herself, she needs you to be willing to leave this prison with her. Are you willing? Do you remember how it all started? How easy it was to talk, as if you had known each other for years. She remembers. She remembers the laughter, the endless conversations, how you seemed to understand every piece of her without her needing to explain. She never found that in anyone else. And that's why it hurts so much, because she knows how much you meant to each other, even if today you are practically strangers. She doesn't want to go back to the past. She doesn't want to live in memories, but she wants to understand. She wants to know if it was all real or if she was the only one who felt it. Can you answer that? Can you look inside yourself and admit what you feel? Because she's not asking for a second chance, nor is she trying to bring you back to something that has already been lost. She just wants answers, answers that only you can give. And if you don't, she will have to live with that doubt for the rest of her life. Can you carry that too? She is getting closer, even though she is still full of uncertainties. It's not easy for her, and it probably won't be easy for you either. But of all the things she could say, of all the questions she could ask, there is one that never leaves her mind. Do you still care? You can say no. You can pretend that it doesn't mean anything, that time has erased what you two lived through. But has it really erased it? Because if it had erased it, why do you still feel that pressure in your chest every time you think of her? Why does your heart race at the mere thought that she still thinks about you? This is the last chance to face it, to look her in the eyes and finally say what you feel. Be it hurt, longing, regret, or even indifference, she deserves to hear it. Not for her, but for both of you. Because silence is no longer an option, not after all of this. You will wonder, maybe later, what would have happened if you had said something, if you had chosen to listen instead of turning your back. Because even though you now want to believe that everything is resolved, you know that some things don't disappear so easily. She is willing to face this, even with all the consequences. The question is, are you? Because the choice you make now will not only define what happens between you two, it will define how you look at yourself from now on. You can decide to listen, open up, face what needs to be faced, or you can choose to close this door for good. But if you opt for silence once again, remember, some stories can't be rewritten and some choices can't be undone. Now the decision is in your hands. Will you listen, open up, and face everything that has been left unresolved between you two? Or will you let silence speak for you once again? This is the moment that can change everything. Write in the comments, do you believe it's possible to start over after so much pain? Don't forget to like this content and subscribe to the channel for more reflections like this one. Your participation is essential for us to continue bringing messages that touch the soul deeply. Are you ready?